everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, so today I'm having a little fun with some satin enamels and some this little piggy, and let me tell you what paints we're working with today. So this background color / base coat is Amsterdam Permanent Blue Violet. This color here is a mixture of this little piggy pigment and unicorn and Amsterdam and pearl white. I've used this pearl white in a straight pour and it's celled, so I wanted to see what would happen if I added some pigments to it and see if I get cells with that. So an experiment happening here. These three colors have the DecoArt satin enamel, the Americana Decor satin enamel in pure white mixed in. So this is the phthalo blue. This is the Quinacridone Magenta. And this is a combination of the two with a bit of the purple in there. It's 50% satin enamel and 50% whatever your other paint is. These have been mixed 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. And then if necessary, I thin that out with some distilled water. Usually just a few drops is necessary. The pigment I dispersed into just a tiny bit of the Jo Sonja gloss varnish before adding the Amsterdam pearl to it. I just find that it spreads out a little easier that way. So again, these are 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol until you get the consistency that you're looking for, which is... This is about a 2 on my consistency scale. I hope you can see that. It's such a shallow cup, it's hard to see. Will this one be better because it's brighter? Maybe. So what we're looking for is a 2 on the consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears quickly. And it is making a nice, thin, even stream off of my stick. If it is getting thick and then thin and then thick again, your consistency is inconsistent and you need to mix some more. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute. But if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards and each one has an associated video here on YouTube where you can find all of the information that you need, the exact paint, brand, color, consistency, the recipe, and of course how to do the technique, all of the things that I can't fit onto a card. This is the painting in that particular video. This box contains a tip for this technique. Here at the bottom you have the color palette that was used in this painting, and then these 2 boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can build off of those colors. There are also 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors. Mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is put some of my background color into my cup. I want to make sure that I have enough for my pour, and I'm going to leave a little bit in the cup to help me out when it comes to my corners. Also to put on top of my pouring cup. So I'm going to reserve a bit of that. You'll notice I've already covered my edges. The reason that I do that is because I mix these paints pretty thin and I'm using Floetrol. That combination does not give the greatest coverage on the sides. So I find that covering the edges beforehand keeps me from having to touch the painting up after it's dried. That is quite the hassle. It takes way more time than it would just to cover them beforehand. And sometimes I'm using a custom color and then I would have to try to figure out the exact blend of those colors to get it to match again. I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. Stitching time saves 9, you know, all that stuff. The reason we laid on a base coat is because we want the paints to slide around evenly and easily. Something has to stick to the canvas first. If it is not your base coat, it will be your pour puddle. And what can happen there is sometimes the coolest stuff happens on the edge of your puddle. And if you don't have a base coat, the center of the puddle will roll over the edges of your puddle and you will lose that part of your composition. So I like to allow myself options composition-wise. Also, why I use a base coat that is the same color as something in my painting. In a straight pour, it's typically the background and the base coat are the same color, so that I have the option of having negative space in case something amazing happens on the edge and I don't want to tilt it all off. That's the method of my madness, or the madness of my methods, or however you want to put it. All right, gonna pop these bubbles with old Bernie 2 times. He never lights on the first try. Well, not never, just not usually. All right, time to put some paint in a cup. I am going to start with the pigment blend. Always check your consistency before pouring. The sauce may thicken upon standing, as this one has. Just adding a couple of drops of water. You want all of your paints to be the same consistency, or the thinner ones will move faster than the thicker ones, and you wind up with some squiggles in your painting. Not necessarily what you want. Okay, going to pour this from up high. I want this to sink and churn. Going to scrape all that goodness out. I love this color. Unicorn is so pretty. Okay, and now for the Phthalo Blue and Satin Enamel. Again, up high, allowing these to sink and churn. And blend. When you are using multiple cell makers together, and you pour in this way into your cup, the colors have a tendency to blend into each other, and you can get some really cool rainbow cells. I have a bit of just the plain pearl white sitting here. I think I'm gonna add a bit of this into there. Why not? It's there. Now going to cover these with some of the paint I have left over, still reserving a bit for my corners. Okay, one more pop of the bubbles. The reason that I use a base coat that is the same color as my background, besides wanting the option for negative space, is so if there are tiny bubbles in your base coat, when you do your pour, if you pop your bubbles and bubbles come up from the base coat, it's going to bring some paint with it. And if this were a color that were not in this cup, it would look, you would see it. So if I used white and I didn't have any white in here, then you would have little tiny white cells popping up. Not necessarily what you want. That's a thing I would feel like I need to go fix. So again, troubleshooting before there's trouble. Going to try to stay in the center here. I already kind of started off not in the center. Not spinning too quickly. I don't want this to look like a ring pour. I want it to be a spiral. The paints with the satin enamels, they were leftover paints, so it might not have as strong of a cell making capability as if it were fresh. But I am not concerned. I already see some stuff popping up. I think we're going to be good to go. And the center here is really important. This is going to be the focal point. This is going to get stretched out. So I like to be very careful. When I get close to the end of the cup, I get closer to the canvas. That is going to give me more control. Oh, 10 on the dismount. All right. I'm gonna lay this cup on its side just in case I need some juice for the corners. So, not perfectly round. I was off center when I first started, so what is important is that I keep the spiral, the center in the center. This part stays in the center. The rest, whatever happens, it's fine. I'm not worried. All right, so going to pop the bubbles. So as you see, when I pop these bubbles, I get little tiny cells. Because the satin enamels are matte, what happens is the matte paints with glossier paints together, when mixed to the proper consistency, will give you a hydrophobic effect, meaning that the matte paints will push the other paints away. So what is happening is when these little tiny cells pop up, it's pushing that dark purple away, and these cells will grow. My torch needs some juice. Ooh, dear. That didn't go as planned. That is still not going as planned. What's happening? Okay, so I've got some cells popping up. I'm just going to see, I don't typically do this. but I'm just going to see if I can kind of even out this circle just a bit. Not tilting it off, just spreading it out a bit. Oop, I went over the edge. It's not what I wanted. Okay, c'est la vie. It'll just be oblong, like a spiral galaxy from the side view. It's fine. Okay, just getting rid of any extra bubbles. Going to zhuzh up my side, my corners here. The corners have a tendency to dry up kind of quickly. So just adding a bit of juice to that. To aid in the even spreading of my puddle. Also, make sure that your sides have not set up. That can happen as well. And if that does happen, the paint won't slide over the edge as easily. So you just want to make sure they're zhuzhed up as well. This side dried up a bit. All right, I think we're ready to give her a twirl. Plenty of cells. I can see the unicorn and pearl white here. Excited about that. Okay, so this side is going to need a little extra love, so I'm going to slide my canvas in the direction that I want it to have more centrifugal force. It's like being on the playground on one of those merry-go-round thingies. Oh, hold on. I need to recenter my spiral. So if you're on one of those merry-go-round carousel things, if you're in the center, you don't get pulled quite as much, but if you are on the edge, you could get launched into the stratosphere. You don't have to spin fast. This does not have to be flinging onto your walls. It typically doesn't drip very far past the corner for me. This is actually probably the furthest it's gone in a long time. All right. and readjusting my center. Going to shift it in this direction a bit for this corner. All right, going to take some of what is left in my cup here and zhuzh up this corner. And once I give this a spin, it'll blend in. That corner's fine. All right. I think that's good. Got some spots here that really have that glow to it, which I love when it has that. And I can see some of the unicorn and the pearl coming to the surface there. All right, I'm gonna let this sit for a bit and do whatever it's gonna do, and then I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. This has started to dry. You can see the edges have started to dry, but the center is still wet. You can see some of that pearl paint lacing in there. Got some cool blending in these cells. They are doing some munitions testing at the proving ground, if you hear a lot of banging noises. But there it is. Got some nice glowing action in there. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. You'll also find the links to my affiliates and some coupon codes, DecoArt being an affiliate, and this little piggy pigment over there at Fluid Art Company. The items used in this painting, also they carry the Amsterdam. What else? What else do we have? Oh, if you are subscribed, please make sure you click that bell so that you are notified when I have new uploads. A lot of my subscribers are not seeing that I'm putting stuff up. I have 160,000 subscribers or something like that, and I'm barely breaking 1,000 views. Folks are not being notified. That center looks very like scorpion-like. What else? What else is in the description box? Oh, you can find a link to my website, DeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And of course, the cards are also at Amazon.com. And you will find a link to our Facebook group. Go make some art. Join us there. Post your masterpieces. Ask your questions. Get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. That is it for me for today. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.